Hello, hello. Today we talk about Gary V, mega influencer online, and his overall impact potentially on the sports card market. Stay tuned. Hello to all my sports card collector, investor, all of my collectibles friends. How are you guys doing? It is another day. The sun has come up and we are here. Let's be thankful for the day that we have ahead and just keep on plugging, keep on pushing forward. If you are new here, please hit that subscribe button. If you like what you hear, please hit the like button. The algorithm needs, we got to have it for the algorithm, got to have it. And please connect with me on Instagram at the Personal Finance Dad. If you like Twitter better, or maybe you're on both, I'm the Personal Finance Dad on Twitter. One quick housekeeping note, I will be on Off Centered tomorrow as usual, Wednesday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern Time with Brad, the Comeback Card Investor. Excited to have Donnie B Collectibles on the show as a guest. It's going to be a good one. Make sure that you're there. All right, guys, I've been reflecting over the last little bit, and last night I was just up thinking about different stuff in my head. I think it's kind of funny, the memes, where you see like the guy and the girl in bed, and the girl's like, I wonder if he's thinking about like another woman, and then it's the man thinking about like some like, random thing like sports cards. That's pretty much what it was last night, where it was just up, just thinking about random things. And I went back in time a little bit and was thinking about kind of where I was in 2018, 2019. I got started back into the hobby at the beginning of 2018, buying graded cards and also graded comic books. And then it just kind of went from there. As my collecting/investing journey has progressed, we of course hit the pandemic, and then everything that came, kind of the fallout from there and all the things that have come out. A lot of good things, I would say, came out of it, surprisingly, even though it's been a really kind of a horrible time globally for a lot of folks. We've had setbacks. We've had, just things that have happened, thanks to the pandemic, but we're very lucky and, overall just grateful. So here we are, guys. But I wanted to look back at, a big catalyst, I believe, in the sports card market. If we're going back, Gary V was starting to talk more about sports cards, and maybe it was 2018, but I remember in 2019 it kind of picking up a lot more, and he made some really good points. One being that people about my age, 40 years old, the cycle is happening, to where that 35 to 45 year old age group, I would say up to, 35 to 55, but really kind of especially that 35, 45 year old age group, is getting back into sports cards because it's a childhood thing. It's something that's fun. It cycles back around like a lot of these things do. And he kind of predicted that to happen. He also made a good point with sneaker flippers not really having the inventory to be able to really, flip properly, to be able to do that and kind of keep that sustainable for a lot of the flippers. So think about all the effort of driving around. It's actually kind of similar to retail retail card flippers, where they're going to different Walmarts and Targets and trying to flip boxes. It's kind of similar to kind of what sneaker people were doing, and still are doing to some degree. But he made a good point. And then especially when the pandemic hit, then, you can't go out and buy sneakers, but you have access to cards. And then you also have the shutdown of sports. So you have all the fantasy day trading kind of, the daily fantasy folks that have nothing to, put their money into. And so, I think that in itself was probably the biggest catalyst, but Gary V was definitely, a big kind of a big catalyst, just being a big influencer. I was lucky enough to be on a couple of his shows, Tea with Gary V. He was running at that time. And then also Coffee and Commerce was another show that he was running, where he'd bring on different guests and talk with different entrepreneurs or people that were looking to start a business. And it was just really cool that he was just definitely way out there. He still is out there with his content, but now it's more of like he's a guest on a podcast, he's a guest at a seminar or something like that, and then it's videoed and it's put on the social. I really like that Tea with Gary V because it was face to face with him, and for all intents and purposes, I do feel like Gary comes from a good place. I do think that he is, I think that he is similar to me as far as the card space goes, to where he was someone that got into business collecting baseball cards, buying, selling baseball cards, as a kid. And he's explained that was a big part of kind of how he learned about trading, how he learned, a lot about just kind of negotiation, etc. Just like a lot of us did, in the 80s and the 90s. And so there is that business element of sports cards has always been there, kind of always been ingrained in us. If you're at that age group. Now, I also know there's a lot of 20 somethings that are in the hobby as well. And they're, it's that flip life thing, but they don't necessarily have that same nostalgia with cards. If you look at like a Sasha T, for example, I watched an interview with him. He didn't have necessarily a nostalgic card collecting background to where that was something he was heavy into, in his youth. That was more of something that came as an adult, and he was like, okay, this could be like a burgeoning market. This is something that is fun. And so I believe it was more of Gary V kind of seeing something that was already taking place and then talking about it. And look, he's got millions of flowers. He's got millions of flowers. He's got millions of followers, that pay attention, all different age groups, all different, demographics. But I would say that his most fervent, I'm making up words now, the folks that are really, really paying close attention to his stuff is the younger demographic. I think he speaks to, 20 somethings that are trying to figure out their life, 18 to 25, I feel like is a good kind of, maybe 18 to 35, is probably like his main age group. Of course, people older as far as his demographics go, of course, he's got millions of people that follow him. He is trying to help young entrepreneurs kind of get off the ground, be motivated to do something. I think that's kind of a big thing too. And there's a lot of tough love in his messaging as well, where it's like, look, nothing's going to be handed to you. He worked family business, liquor, wine store, and that's just a hustle. I'm sure, family business, you're just hustling. So that's what he has grown up in. And so he does offer, I think, some really good insights there. But as it relates to cards, he was kind of more of a big picture talker on this particular subject. Yes, did he talk about individual cards here and there? He did, but that wasn't his main focus, though. He was just talking more about, what he was doing. He was buying, actually, I remember him talking about more of the oddball type cards, as opposed to a lot of the more base stuff, even going back to, 2018, 2019. Not that he didn't have base. I know he's got base Luca Prisms, PSA 10s, etc. So he's got probably a mix of all of it. And I don't think that he's done. I think actually he's been buying all along, I would assume. I don't know. I don't talk to him, but I would assume, especially with kind of like prices moving down, I think that's a long-term deal for him. I think he's holding a lot of things long-term, if I had to guess. It's no secret that, not only was he talking cards, and really kind of getting people excited about, sports, how it relates to cards, culture, etc. But that also, was a motivator for people to start hobby content. And look, I was already into sports cards before I learned that Gary V was talking about sports cards, but it's certainly a catalyst for this particular channel as to, wow, I can do this, because he's big on, digital. He's a giant digital agency. So he's talking about content creation, how it's important, create 37 pieces of content a day or whatever he says, and so during those times, I was like, okay, I could maybe do this. Look, I didn't have family members that necessarily knew much about this or like, hey, you should do that. Nobody was saying that. It was kind of the words of Gary and some of the others that are in that space, that were like, hey, put yourself out there. If it's something that you're passionate about, get into it. And I do think a lot of people are looking for that passion project. A lot of people are just trying to figure out what that is. And that's perfectly okay at any age. I think that, there's some people that are really fortunate at 20 years old. They know that they want to play tennis for the rest of their life, or they're into tennis or whatever it is. Not all of us are like that. For a lot of us, it takes time to really figure out who we are. What are we into? What do we want to talk about? What kind of community do we want to be a part of? And what kind of community do we want to build? I was one of those people. I have 4 kids. So, a lot of my life has been spent just trying to make sure family life is okay. My passions and my hobbies weren't exactly, front and center. They weren't exactly, the most important thing. They still aren't, frankly. But this has given me kind of an outlet. And also I'm talking with like-minded people. I have to give Gary V credit, and some of the other folks online that talk kind of that same talk, that motivational type talk, to get into this and keep it going and stay motivated and really kind of push through. And as time has gone on, I've learned that this is really kind of a stress relief. It's been a great way to build community and make a difference in other people's lives. Unfortunately, I did see a recent video where he was talking on an NFT podcast, Gary was, and it wasn't that recent. I think this might have been a few weeks ago, but he was talking about how he really kind of got disenchanted with the card space because he was being, told that he was essentially pumping and dumping cards, and says that he's not doing that. Of course, I have no idea if he is or not. Nobody really does, other than him, but I just don't think that he is. And maybe I give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't think that was his plan going in. I think that he's a guy that, he likes to talk about what he's passionate about. And I also do think that he's ahead of the curve. He does get ahead of these trends in culture. He pays close attention to it. That's really where he's built his reputation on. It's, being ahead on Twitter. He was on Twitter in 2006 and he was on YouTube in 2008 or whatever it was, so he's been ahead of the curve on the technology stuff. And now he's into NFTs. He's got VFriends, which really, I think out of a lot of the NFT projects that have come out, if I was going to put any money into NFTs right now, it would probably be more stuff associated with Gary, only because I see a lot of folks that are just kind of getting in the game, and getting rich quick, on their NFT project. And look, everyone's got to make their way. So that's not a judgment. It's just the way the world turns, so I understand that that's the way that it's going to be. But I do believe that he is going to be kind of the one of the the last man standing, so to speak. When NFTs are still a thing in 5-10 years, I think that Gary will still be in it. I don't think that he will be out of it. And I don't own any Gary NFTs. The only NFTs I own are NBA Top Shot. But not that I'm not interested in the stuff, but just the art NFTs and some of that stuff. I just think it's too early to really get a grasp on what's going on in that space. I would rather just kind of wait it out, see how it goes, and then maybe get into it as we get down the road a little bit. But let me know, guys, did Gary have a positive impact on you? Was he someone that got you into the hobby, whether it be content or whether it be just cards in general, cards and content? Or maybe did he give you kind of some good life advice that you were able to use in other aspects, whether it be your career, starting another business or whatever? I think that he is, while some folks are not crazy about Gary V and the sports card hobby, he is, to me, I think he was certainly a net positive by all accounts, really bringing attention to the hobby. And I do hope that he is more involved down the road. Maybe it's not today, but maybe down the road he's back in it in some capacity. I do think that he's back. I think he's in it as far as buying cards, but I mean really kind of putting his face out more in this space. We'll see though. We'll see, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Again, have an amazing rest of your day. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.